everyone. For teleSUR, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. Shock, relief, indignation, just some of the emotions here in Venezuela after the government revealed it had foiled a coup attempt planned to coincide with Thursday's anniversary of the opposition protests, or Huarembas. President Maduro says the plan, financed from the United States, included an attempt to assassinate him and the bombing of various targets in the capital, including the offices here of teleSUR. Maduro says various members of the armed forces and a number of civilian politicians were involved, but the plot had been completely foiled.
Se trata de un intento de utilizar a un grupo de oficiales de la aviación militar para provocar un hecho violento.
It was an attempt to use a group of Air Force officers to provoke violence, carry out an attack, a follow-up from last year's coup attempts. I want to thank those young officers, the youth in the barrios, our intelligence and counterintelligence services, because thanks to all of them, we were able to follow this coup conspiracy for several weeks and foil it completely in time.
Porque gracias a la actuación conjunta pudimos hacerle seguimiento durante varias semanas a este intento de golpe de Estado.
The president of Venezuela's National Assembly, Diosdado Cabello, released the names of the Air Force officers involved.
Capitán Héctor José Noguera Figueroa.
These are the names of the officers involved in the coup attempt. Captain Héctor José Noguera Figueroa, on the run. José Suárez Rómulo, on the run. Division General Maximiliano Hernández Vázquez. He's a former commander of the Air Force. Major César Arnoldo Pérez Carrero. First Lieutenant Wilfredo Amado Castillo Colmenares. First Lieutenant Henry Javier Salazar Moncada, under arrest. First Lieutenant Miguel Ángel Salazar Molina, he's not been arrested yet. First Lieutenant Carlos José Esqueda Martínez, under arrest. First Lieutenant Jafre de Jesús Pineda Trejo, and First Lieutenant Ricardo José Antich Zapata. He has just been arrested.
Primer Teniente Carlos José Esqueda Martínez, detenido actualmente.
The mayor of Libertador, the Libertador municipality here in Caracas, and leader of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, said that the person who chose the targets for the plot was the prominent opposition leader, Julio Cortez.
Este señor General Hernández, del que el presidente mencionó, que ha declarado.
This general that the president referred to, General Hernandez, has declared, and the evidence backs this up, that he was going to make a recording. Fortunately, they were never able to make the video recording. But we have the text of the message that was going to be read. He says, and I'm very aware of the gravity of this, that it was the opposition leader and MP, Julio Cortez, who chose the strategic targets.
Now, according to plans found on a computer belonging to those arrested, the targets included several public buildings and locations. The plan was for a military Tucano jet to fly over Caracas and bomb several strategic points, like the headquarters of military intelligence and the nearby teleSUR building in the east of the capital. Now, they also intended to bomb Plaza Venezuela. That is one of the busiest spots in the center of the city here in Caracas, as well as the City Hall of the Capital District. The Public Sector's Office and the Ministry of Defense, as well as the Miraflores Presidential Palace, were all on the target list. With these attacks, the plotters apparently intended to create chaos and sow panic among the population. The president of teleSUR, Patricia Villegas, has condemned the plan to attack the television channel's headquarters here in Caracas. On her Twitter account, Villegas wrote, quote, "Part of the planned coup against President Maduro was an attack on teleSUR in Caracas." She went on, quote, "teleSUR's headquarters is not just a building full of aerials and satellite dishes. More than 700 people work in this main building that was a target." In another tweet, she said, quote, "It is the lives of teleSUR's workers and that of our neighbors that were at risk. If they attack teleSUR, the impact would be widespread. Villegas invited followers to condemn the plans of the attempt using the hashtag Somos Gente TeleSUR, in English that translates to "We are the people of TeleSUR." Let's take a look at how the coup plot denounced by the government unfolded. Taking a look at that now, as you can find much more in detail and analysis of the coup plot denounced by the Venezuelan government on our website, telesurtv.net/English. Now to some other news in Latin America. The United Nations Commission on Forced Disappearances is presenting its final report on the situation in Mexico. Clayton Kahn is in Mexico City.
Today, the United Nations Commission Against Enforced Disappearances declared that Mexico suffers from a state of general disappearances, with many cases being committed by agents of the state or public servants. The 11-page report slammed the Mexican authorities for a status quo of impunity that exists when bringing charges against perpetrators of enforced disappearances. The committee, which analyzed the case of Mexico at the beginning of February, expresses its deep concerns over the lack of reliable data and information over the number and kind of disappearances that exist in the country. Called the case of the missing 43 Ayotzinapa students a very worrying example of enforced disappearances that exposes the major challenges the Mexican state confronts when preventing and investigating the crime. The UN Commission set out a list of recommendations for the Mexican state, including the formation of a unified national registry of cases of disappearances and a special unit that investigates and brings charges against perpetrators. This is Clayton Kahn reporting for TeleSUR here in Mexico City.
And around the world today, at least 20 people were killed in Pakistan on Friday in an attack on a Shiite mosque in the city of Peshawar. 3 explosions hit the mosque while gunmen entered and fired at people as they were attending Friday prayers. The Pakistani Taliban has taken responsibility for the blast. They say it was in revenge for the government's recent crackdown on militants following a deadly school attack in December. The Islamic State group has made further advances in Iraq, seizing the western town of al-Baghdadi. The militants attacked and advanced on the town Thursday, but the number of dead or injured has not yet been confirmed. Al-Baghdadi lies just a few kilometers from the Al-Assad air base, where over 300 U.S. Marines are training Iraqi troops. Fighting continues in eastern Ukraine despite a new ceasefire brokered at a summit in Minsk early on Thursday morning. Agreed to by Ukrainian officials and rebel leaders, as well as the leaders of France, Germany, and Russia. The truce is scheduled to come into effect at midnight on Saturday. At least 2 people were killed and 6 wounded Friday when shells hit various points in eastern Ukraine, including Donetsk. Greek officials are holding technical talks with representatives of the Eurozone about restructuring the country's debt. After finance ministers from Greece and the Eurozone failed to reach any agreement on Wednesday, today's talks will prepare the ground for another ministerial meeting on Monday. That will be the last time the 2 sides meet before the current bailout program expires at the end of the month. The Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has maintained his strong stance on eliminating austerity measures and cutting the debt.
I asked our counterparts to look at the political change in Greece, not as a threat of returning to the past, but as a chance that changes will happen in Greece to classify it as a normal European country.
Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan has criticized U.S. President Barack Obama for his silence over the killings of a Muslim family in North Carolina earlier this week. Speaking from Mexico, Erdogan said the silence by U.S. officials on the slaughter was, quote, telling, and urged them to take a stronger position on such acts. Thousands gathered in the U.S. Thursday to mourn the death of the 3 Muslims who were shot to death in their home on Tuesday. The police now admit it may have been a hate crime. Myanmar is marking 100 years since the birth of Aung San, the country's independence hero and father of opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Aung San, who was assassinated in 1947, is revered in Myanmar for freeing the country from colonial rule and embracing its ethnic minorities in a vision of unity. The celebrations were clouded by reports that 47 soldiers had been killed in combat with ethnic minorities near the China border. Rio de Janeiro in Brazil prepares for Carnival celebrations by ramping up police presence and putting the final touches on the famous Samba Dome parade route. The local authorities announced that this will be a carnival with rights, which will take steps to protect lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender crowds from any possible homophobic attacks. Close to 1 million tourists are expected for the 5-day carnival. Chantel Winnie is taking the fashion world by storm. The young Canadian model was diagnosed with vitiligo at age 4. She overcame bullying and years of rejection to achieve her dream of becoming an international model. Winnie has become a spokeswoman for vitiligo, which causes white patches to appear across the body and affects millions in North America, and has learned to be proud of who she is.
In Toronto, and I always got response.
Inspiring. After wowing judges of the Arabs Got Talent, 5 young Palestinians who formed a band while bombs rained down are hoping their budding success can raise awareness for war-ravaged Gaza. Their first audition was so impressive that they were sent straight to the semifinals of the show. Now, the young musicians in the Arab Orchestra, as it is known in English, had to rehearse during pauses in fighting in Gaza last year. Also inspiring on this Friday. We have plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For teleSUR English, I'm Cody Waddle. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend.